All right. We should probably do this because I got
Let's get started.
An hour. Welcome to the Money Lap.
I kind of look up mid taco bite.
You don't know disappointment. Talking all things motorsports by two real drivers.
I appreciate being called a gritty driver.
With many, many years of experience.
We've had to do that other people didn't want to do.
The most dedicated host in the motorsports podcast world.
Weren't we supposed to have somebody come on our show as a guest?
No, we did it.
Did we?
Yes.
Yes, for our 1 year anniversary.
And we definitely know what we're doing.
Remember, talk through your mic.
I'm talking past it like this.
Well, if you just pointed it differently. Never mind. Never mind.
Oh.
Never mind.
Let's
the
talk about
stand-up is
race
nice.
cars. God's
This
sakes.
is our worst show ever.
Hello, welcome to Money Lap. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined by my good friend and car salesman extraordinaire from Iowa, Landon Cassill, veteran of over 500 starts in all three NASCAR series. Landon, this past weekend, it was an absolute thriller in Atlanta in the Cup Series. We will talk a bit of that. There's tons of rumors and transactions in the Cup Series, including something that just dropped minutes ago. We're recording this on Tuesday, July 1st, which the importance of that day and this day every year for NASCAR drivers we'll get into, and why that pertains to some of the news that came out today. And also, I just want to let you know that I am Nostradamus. Do you want to hear my picks from last week and how they played out? So, Xfinity, I picked Carson Kvapil to win. No idea why, other than I just had a feeling. He ended up finishing second. Nick Sanchez won in my old ride, Big Machine Racing, 48. Good for them. Really happy for Scott and the whole team to get that done. We should have won about 3 of our 4 races there, possibly 4 out of 4. So it would seem a place that if they were going to get that win, it was finally Atlanta. It owed us one. In Cup, Chase Elliott. I picked him on Tuesday of last week. He was the winner in an absolute thriller. Very cool to see. In F1, I said Lando Norris had to win. He had to come back from the disaster that was Canada and all these rumors and the swirl of media around him, and that, Oscar Piastri was going to take number 1 at that team. He responded by winning in Austria. That was big. And my pick in trucks, Cam Waters, he finished 5th. Corey Heim won it, but Corey Heim led all but 1 lap at Lime Rock. Just happy to see those cars there. So pretty good, I would say, for picks.
That's not bad. I don't even remember who my picks were.
I knew because obviously I worked for TNT this weekend, and they were like, you need to pick a winner. And on like Thursday, and I was like, don't worry, I already got my winner for Sunday. Chase Elliott. I actually didn't say it because I wanted it to be a surprise. And then I was like, yeah, I chose this on Tuesday. And then I told Chase, we interviewed him afterwards. I said, hey, by the way, man, I just got to thank you. You made me look really smart. I picked you on Tuesday. I had faith. And the boy came through. Absolutely really cool win. By the way, speaking of TNT, obviously working with some of my old buddies and Dale Jr., Steve Attart, a couple others, and we were all discussing, just as we do sometimes when there's downtime, we just shoot the talk about random racing stuff. And I was talking to Steve about that S&P 500 versus downforce chart we made and how we talked about that. And he was like, oh, yeah, I saw that tweet. And Dale walked in at the same time and sort of chuckled. And I was like, oh, did you see that tweet or whatever? He's like, no, I actually, I watched the show on Racing America. And I was like, oh my God, we not only have one listener in Denny Hamlin, but Denny, you now have company. We have 2 listeners and viewers.
And multiple platforms.
Well, I mean, we're growing. That's 100% gain.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet you didn't even know you could watch a show on Racing America.
Yeah, if you are looking at their fast channel, you will see Money Lap on there, which is pretty cool. So thank you, Racing America,
on the
for getting us a second viewer and listener. Pretty big. How's your week going? What are you up to?
Not much. Family's back. We pretty much spent the entire month of June either in North Carolina or other kind of traveling. So everybody is back in Iowa, which is nice.
That's cool. Good
finished out the month yesterday.
Must be nice.
And, yeah.
Let me ask you something.
Let's hear.
In your prior life racing, those would be tough. You could do it during the weekdays, right? But you wouldn't be there on the weekends. We talk about all the time the sacrifice it takes to race full time in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel kind of relaxing cooler, different.
Like, what does a Sunday feel like at home on a regular basis?
Like just being home on like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Sundays are legitimately relaxing,
especially in the summer.
if you're not racing.
Like this is normally when it's the
Especially in the summer. But especially, and here's the thing, and this is I said this a lot while we were racing, that even if you as a driver particularly, because drivers have a tough schedule, we have a tough job, it's all those things, but it isn't as tough as some of the people in the industry, right? Crew members that basically work 7 days a week, they don't get days off. Drivers, you can kind of pick the day that you want to work out, pick the day that you can control even your simulator schedule to some degree, if you work well with your team. So drivers, oftentimes can be like, oh, I don't work on Monday. I don't do anything on Mondays, or I don't do anything on Tuesdays. But it's hard, and anybody else that works on the weekends, it doesn't even have to be race car drivers. It's hard to enjoy a day off when the rest of the world is working.
Yep. I've had such a problem with that.
Like when anywhere we lived, it was like I couldn't connect with my non-racing friends during the week because they had to work.
Yep.
Right. And they were on their kids' school schedules and sports schedules and work schedules. But those were my days off. Like you couldn't get my friends to go golfing with me on a Wednesday because they're at work. They golf on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
Or whatever. So there's a different like energy in the world. I'm saying the thing that anybody listening to this show is like, yeah, welcome to the real world. But like, it's just funny after basically 20 some years in NASCAR and professional racing that it's like a Sunday at home is like, there's just a different energy in the world, walking through Menards and doing your home improvement shopping or going to the coffee shop and just not being in a hurry. Like it just not having nowhere to be and nowhere to go. And
I feel it.
It is nice.
I'm still on the schedule, obviously I'll do 24 Xfinity broadcasts this year, 5 for TNT, obviously, and then I'll do a handful for NBC as well. And, I'm still sort of on the schedule, but I have a lot of weekends off, and which sounds crazy in that I'll still work like probably 30 weekends, but it seems so much less. And the other side of it is racing. I always tell people like Xfinity Series was probably a 6-day a week job with sim and everything else you do. Cup is a 7.5 day a week job. There's not enough time. Like you just, especially if you're in a mid to high, tier 2 to tier 1 team. And really right now, I'd say all the way to tier 3 and 4, because everyone has sim time. Everyone is expected to do so much with the access to everything. So I think in that world, like you don't ever stop, and you can have your Monday. Like I always was a Monday person, like to say, especially when I've done Cup or whatever, it's like Monday, rest, day off, right? Don't call me, need to rest. But now I'll say this though, like with the weekends I've had off, it is spectacular to sort of like live that normal life and then have like a Monday to whatever where you're on everyone else's schedule, because I feel like, to your point, my social life has increased to like where I'm just I'm able to talk to more people and like be more on their schedule and understand kind of what they're going through. And it sounds, I mean, obviously this is first world problem, because if you've gotten to be a pro race car driver, coolest thing ever. But it is it is fun. Like, I don't know.
Well, we can find problems in anything, right?
Yeah, but it's not fun to them. They're like, what the hell, dude? This is what I've done. I work 5 days a week and then I get 2 days off. I live for the weekend, especially the guys in finance or whatever. But I don't know. I like it. I think it's cool. Right now, I probably just work 7 days a week, but that is what it is.
I will say, in the real world, and anybody else that works in the real world, right? Particularly business owners. If there's any, business owners out there, I'd love to get your opinion on this. I am struggling to find where you do get that true downtime in the small business world, because the business never stops, right? I mean, it stops on Sunday. We're closed on Sundays.
Yeah.
Right. But like, and in racing, I will say that I worked, and you could probably ask my wife and she will definitely say this. Like I worked, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because even if you're not in the racing season, you're putting deals together. You're trying to do this. I can't tell you how many off seasons I've spent stressed out about whether I was going to have a ride or not, whether it's dealing with sponsors or team owners. So I'm not trying to like, look too much in history with rose-colored glasses, which we tend to do. But in racing, there is a start and an end to the season, right? And then there's a gap in between. And then even more specific to that, you have holidays where the racing industry literally shuts down on those holidays.
Yep.
Right? Like Thanksgiving and Christmas are very, I think, sacred times in the industry because those are the only times that the industry truly does shut down.
Oh yeah.
That Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thanksgiving, and then the week between Christmas and New Year's, just nothing gets done. And there's something really nice about that. We're in this small business world that I'm in right now at the dealership, like it just never stops, right? I mean, we have holidays. We're off on July 4th. It's like we're off on Christmas, but it's like you don't ever shut down. And so it makes it difficult to maybe for you to shut down because it's like, I can't shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Even you can try to get away, but
yeah, but that's the dream. Technically, you kind of, especially if you rise to like where you are, sole owner, boss, whatever, it's like it's your gig. You make it what it is, right? That's the American dream. A little bit.
True.
In racing, we've always worked for.
We shut the dealership down for 2 weeks every December.
It's up to you. That's up to you, baby.
If we wanted.
Yeah. But I mean, the point being is like that is, one of the things in racing is like we've always worked for someone else, right? And in TV, I've always worked for someone else, right?
There's a dealer in our 20 group. A dealer in our 20 group has decided this year they started, and I feel like they're still in the honeymoon stage of it. So it'll be interesting to see how they enjoy it. But they're closed on Mondays.
Whoa.
Which is one of our biggest selling days as a dealership.
Which is so surprising because, my brother and I have had this conversation probably now for 15 years, which is why in the hell dealerships are closed on Sundays and not Mondays?
Well, we have to be closed on Sundays.
Because it's
against the law for us. It's a law.
Yeah.
And every state's a little bit different,
so
I think, but most states are closed on Sundays. But this dealer is closed on Mondays. Like on their own merit. They're closed on Mondays. And what it's done for them, like from a scheduling and a personnel perspective, is now they don't have to have any days off during the week. Everybody works Tuesday through Saturday. And everybody has Sunday and Monday off. So all of their dealership is on the same work schedule. I think they have some accounting and administrative people that come in on Mondays, that work a Monday through Friday schedule. But in terms of retail facing operations, it's everybody has the same schedule, Tuesday through Saturday. Everybody has Monday off. You don't have to, which is just very interesting. It's very interesting. And they sell, I mean, they claim that they sell just as many cars as they did when they had.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't be caught dead at a dealership on a Monday. Hell no.
Well, I told you, Monday is one of our biggest selling days.
I know, it's just wild because it's the thing I think about is like, I want to go look at cars on a Sunday or a Saturday, but I don't want to be there on a Monday. Like, no, not gonna.
I don't get it either. I don't understand why it is, but that is, I would say Saturday is your busiest day typically. Monday and Friday are your next two busy days, and then Thursday.
Weekends not.
So
okay. You learn something new every day. Well, let's talk about this past weekend at Atlanta. I worked my first race for TNT, as I mentioned. A lot of fun. Jamie McMurray and Shannon Spake on the pre and post race show. Good to be back with Dale Jr. and Adam Alexander. Obviously, I work with CW. Steve Atart, great pit reporters on this team, and Marty Snyder, Alan Cavana, Daniel Trotta, Mamba, Dylan Mamba Smith. Love him. Great dude. He did an excellent job this past weekend. It's a fun group. You'll appreciate this, though, from all your TV you've done, though, a little behind the scenes. So, like, TNT has, some of the best sports talk shows and most acclaimed in terms of inside the NBA, and their NHL one. And basically what they found with those is like the less prepared the talent is for what's coming, what's going to be discussed, less structure, the better. And so it was probably like the least amount of like idea of I knew what we were going to talk about. in the history of me doing TV, and it was actually tremendous, and I loved it. And it's very free flowing, and you might notice in like our post race show, we went like 45 minutes or something. Nothing. We have no idea what we're about to talk about. Like Jamie McMurray and I, Shannon Spake knows. She works with the producers, but they don't tell us anything. They never get in your ear and say rap. They never time you out. It's just go until they kind of feel like they have to stop or you don't have anything else to speak about, which is kind of fun.
No hard segments, just
none.
Just let
go.
it roll.
Obviously, the pre-race is a little bit tighter, but we really don't know what we're about to discuss. We just sort of know generally there's a tight amount of time. But it's wild. It's a lot of fun. So it's gonna be a fun couple of weeks with them. We got 4 more. And you know, I don't think they could have got a better damn race to kick it off. This, you know, I asked Chase Elliott this. It just seemed like the runs that you could get this past weekend in the Cup car at Atlanta were just ginormous. And obviously they started the race sort of in the daytime. You know, the sun was setting. The track was super hot. It was 1,000 degrees down there. And there was a massive crowd, by the way. I was told by someone who worked at the track they were expecting possibly the biggest crowd in a decade. So that was pretty cool. And you could see it. It was absolutely packed. And the you know, the heat and the track and that sort of thing, obviously handling meant something. But as we went into the night, obviously it gained grip. But compared to other Atlanta races where like it's super gripped up and they kind of just run in a pack and they can't make any headway versus ones we saw last year in the fall where they did spread out in the daytime. It was like the perfect mix of handling mattered, but you could still draft and get like these monster runs that usually in Atlanta take laps to materialize. They just were there. And I asked Chase about it and he was like, you know, he kind of said you go to a super speedway race and you occasionally sometimes get a race where you just are lockstep, you know, 2 by 2 by 2 and you can't move forward or whatever. And then there's times for whatever reason, there's huge runs. And he's like, this is just one of those times it was huge runs. And no rhyme or reason other than it obviously was the case. And his last lap pass was just incredible. He gets the push from the 48. You know, he goes from like 6th to 1st in the last 5 laps and gets that final push from the 48. And Brad Keselowski had blocked every move but the last most important one, which I know you pointed out pretty on our group chat.
Yeah, he the block that I think he needed to make, the most important block that he missed was the one on Bowman after he had lost the lead.
Okay.
I mean, obviously he needed to block the pass for the lead, but I just feel like you replay that white flag lap 10 times, and I don't know if you could successfully block for that lead that time, at 10 out of 10 times, right? I think that, you know, he might be able to successfully block for the lead 1 or 2 out of 10 times the way those runs were working, right? I think that he could have maybe successfully kept Bowman behind him. And that might have given him a better chance of having a second shot at Chase. But I mean, I guess Bowman wasn't going to push him. I don't know. Yeah. That's tough. That's a tough spot to be in.
I think Bowman would have hit the brakes. Like before he's going to push to him.
Yeah, maybe his only chance was blocking Chase.
Yeah. That was just not
I felt like I had this thought and I didn't text it to anybody really. Well, first of all, my note on Chase before I get into this, because this is another thing I didn't mention to anybody. So this is the cheap hot take of the, well, it's not a hot take. This is just the cheap observation. No, the cheap observation of the week. When I turned the race on, I didn't watch the whole race. I watched like midway through the second stage to the end of the race. And within 30 seconds of turning the race on was some point in midway through the second stage, they had a camera on Chase Elliott. And I was like, oh, he's got the best car. And then it was like from that point forward, I was just like, yeah, Brad was doing his thing and I really wanted Brad to win. There's some other guys out there that were like, but every time I saw Chase, it was just like, oh my God, he can go anywhere with that car.
Yeah.
He just could. It was, and then he ended up winning. And I was like, man, I should have tweeted that and looked smart. So instead, I'll just say it on my show after the fact. And
I like the hot take, man. It works.
The other thing I wanted to say that I felt while I was watching the race. Now, this was definitely more packed up than my vision here. But there were times that it was like I felt like I was watching late 80s, early 90s cup cars race at Charlotte.
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
a lot of throttle. You know, they didn't have 800 horsepower back then. We all want big horsepower. And I do, right? We all want low downforce. We all want that stuff. But back then, those cars were running damn near wide open at those tracks because they only had 600 horsepower, which is
And
what
they
they
were like
have.
bricks trying to go through the
Yeah,
air.
and they're like bricks going through the air, and they slid up the track. They diamond the corners, and it was like there was a few times. Now again, they never raced that packed up at those tracks, but when you saw like the leaders running 1, 2, 3, 4 in line, and then kind of slingshotting around and just exchanging positions every other lap, I was like, God, I felt like I was watching the Winston. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was watching late 80s, early 90s Charlotte Cup racing. So I don't know. It was kind of cool.
I like it. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
That's cool. Very cool.
Of course, one of my best friends texted me midway through the race. He was like, I hate this format. And I was like, I love this track. What are you talking about? Like,
Well, I was going to say, like, is it, I think we asked this the last time they had the 3 wide finish, and then the first race of this year was going to end in another 3 wide finish between Bell, Carson Hocevar, and Kyle Larson. And they threw the caution with them all 3 wide as Carson had just gone to the middle and made it 3 wide. It, in some respects, at least for now it is aging for sure, and it's going to age quickly.
right.
It's like the perfect NASCAR track.
And it appears to keep getting better with age. Like,
It's true. Yeah.
And so they're gonna have to keep lifting out of the throttle and working handling into it. Yet it still races like a speedway, and you need to have the car trimmed out. And there is something about that combination in motorsports that is when you catch that lightning in a bottle. It's not even lightning in a bottle, but like when you can create a combination where the teams have to choose between trimming their cars out and packing down force on them for handling, when they have to make a decision there, then I think the racing product ends up being really good.
Yeah.
Like, and use the Indy 500, for example, right? Teams are spend an entire month at Indy, and the best Indy 500 races are when the teams are like pushing that edge of how much can we trim the cars out? The cars have to handle. They start the race out more conservative. They start the month of May out more conservative, right? And they're constantly tweaking the cars and getting them unwound and getting them unwound and getting them unwound. And then finally the driver wrecks it. And you hope he wrecks it early enough in May that you can get it fixed and, and you can learn something from it. And then think about some of your best moments at Daytona, right?
Yep.
As a driver, how many times, because we've been on both sides of it. You and I have raced enough races at Daytona. It's like I've been in a Daytona where I showed up on February 10th and put my right foot to the floor, and I didn't let up until February 18th, right? And after the 500, I was wide open for a week straight. And then I've had Daytona weekends where like you had to drive the car.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Donnie Wingo was beating my spoiler up in a pit stop one time to get the thing to drive better.
I did an old Daytona
Xfinity
race where I basically, my right arm was dead afterwards because it was so sideways. We were having to lift. It was the 2011 July race. Oh my goodness. I mean, you were lifting and braking. We spread out in packs. It was awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So, those are that Daytona is capable of that. Now, Talladega hasn't been capable of that for a long time, right?
No.
Since they paved Talladega, it has been wide open, right? We've been wide open at Talladega for 15 years. And I love that track. I love Talladega. But you go there with one objective, right? And it's to build the fastest car. And it's great.
Yeah.
It builds good racing. But there is this like sweet spot of racing that NASCAR has found, and it's funny. I'm just applauding it like it's this great discovery. Yet you and I, throughout our lives, have shamed NASCAR for putting restrictor plates on these tracks and trying to create pack raking, all this racing and all this stuff. But like there is this sweet spot where if you can build a package in a car and a track combination where the team has to choose. Do I want to be fast on the straightaway? Do I want the car to handle? How do I want it to race? It can really produce exciting racing. And we're kind of in this heyday for Atlanta on that right now, I think.
I'd agree with that. I think it's somehow, to your point, it's that moment. It's just its time with the car, the way the cars are in the track. It's just the two have come together at the perfect time. And to, reinforce that point, I would not say the racing in Xfinity is nearly as good here as the Cup car. Like generating a run is incredibly hard in Xfinity.
That's the only thing the Xfinity lacks, though, at Xfinity. In the Xfinity races at Atlanta, is just
the only ones.
It's just that suck up. That's the biggest thing, because the Xfinity cars do have quite a bit of that, give and take in terms of you can trim the cars out, you can make them handle. They do generate an awful lot of grip, though.
For sure, this weekend had that. But I would say, I think for every reason, it's more difficult, right, to pass and to make runs and the Cup car just it's just out of this world how much it can create a run. Very cool. There was a ginormous wreck in this race, as there was in the Xfinity race as well. I was listening to Denny Hamlin's podcast, and he said he somewhat doesn't know if it was his fault or not, but he definitely was the first car to go spinning, and it was an absolute big one there. But
I didn't really catch like the wreck. I felt like I watched the replay 4 times. I still don't have an idea what happened.
I was going to get to. So he said he watched it and he's not sure. And then I watched it a couple times and I was like, oh, well, maybe that car checked up or that guy got that guy. And I'm just like, I don't really understand what happened there. But suddenly Denny's fired off to the inside and all hell breaks loose. And I was like, okay, like if I was the one on the broadcast in the booth, thankfully it was Dale and Steve, sort of breaking that wreck down, I would have been very blunt to be like, I have no idea. But I should get someone up here who knows what they're talking about, because I have no idea what just went down right there. So I'm actually glad Denny thought the same things, considering he was in the wreck. That was a weird one. But it took out a ton of cars, and it completely destroyed the brackets of this in-season challenge. Because of that, there are 0 brackets that remain alive of all the people that submitted them. So it's fun that it goes to a place like this, but maybe we don't start in Atlanta. I don't know.
Did you watch The Office? Were you a fan of The Office?
I know you watched way more. I've watched it. I just not all.
Josh, did you watch The Office?
A little bit, yeah.
If nobody can relate to this, I'm gonna kill this bit.
No, go ahead.
There's an episode of The Office where Daryl brings his daughter in to work because he has her, and everybody's like trying to entertain her, and Andy like thinks he's gonna be funny magician, whatever, and creates this. I don't know if it was like a stuffed animal or something. Like, okay, you gotta find the stuffed animal, or it was either Andy or Mike. Anyways, this is like find the animal, find the thing, and it was like gonna be this big, scavenger hunt, and he basically revealed it to her within the first 30 seconds. And the scene and like the cut scene is Daryl and be like, and just like that, the game was over. That was my feeling after the bracket thing. And people were so critical of NASCAR making Atlanta the first race of this bracket. And that criticism is well earned, because it's AJ. Like, and just like that, the bracket doesn't matter anymore, and now we just have to endure 4 more weeks of whatever is going on with this bracket.
Hey AJ, clip that, make that into a clip. All right. That's how clips are made in this show.
Yep. I almost picked Ty Dillon over Denny Hamlin. I almost picked him last week.
Mamba did it. He actually did that. I thought it's so funny I thought about that, but I was like,
okay,
God, Denny is on such a heater. I'm like, if he's going to turn around at a place like this, this is the time. This is his challenge.
Yeah, he usually doesn't get caught up in that dumb stuff.
No, and he was it. So,
real quick on the bracket thing, I want to relate this to the NCAA. How many brackets do you think were submitted for March Madness this year?
I don't know.
34 million.
Okay.
How many lasted out perfect brackets lasted after round 1 of March Madness?
1 million.
181.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So
it's hard to have a perfect bracket.
Yes.
Do you
So
know how
out of
many
the
were
40
submitted
million,
for NASCAR?
40 million.
No. It's going to be like a million. No one's even heard this.
150,000.
It's brand new. There'll be more next year. I can promise you that.
It is fun. It's
No,
fun.
it's a great time.
It's like it doesn't matter. It's just a bracket, and it's everybody. It is fun.
Look, we talked about it last week. I think the concept is genius. This time of the
So
year, in the
genius.
summer, why not? Like, I liked when
Something
they
to
did
pay
that.
attention to.
Those $1 million challenges across 3 races. You know, if you won all 3, make $1 million. Like stuff like that. Hell yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
Like this gets real.
You know, that's
stale.
a good point because
some
it's like
point.
there was this big dramatic thing of like, should be a bracket. This doesn't matter. We've been doing novelty fun side bets in NASCAR for the Winston Million, all that stuff. No
Yeah.
bowl, whatever. That's happened.
Sprint did it.
The I can't remember Sprint's deal, but
I can't remember. I know Keselowski was close to winning it in 2012 or 2011.
they've been doing that for forever. So
Yeah,
we're
I
long
think it's
overdue.
cool.
They'll do this. They'll get it. They'll get something out of this for 4 or 5 years, and then we'll start talking crap about it.
Well, I think this is
Brett
dynamic
Griffin
enough. It
will-
never has to
Brett
stop.
Griffin will be like, we need to be over that.
What's that guy doing? Um. Well, I mentioned that there's a lot of stuff happening in the Cup Series. Today, Daniel Suarez put it out that he will not be returning to Trackhouse at the end of this season. That does make sense because if you've ever signed a 1+1 contract, Landon, usually the period in which the option ends is somewhere around July 1st. Today is July 1st that he put that out.
When did
Knowing
he have
that
his
he
last crew
signed.
chief change?
What's that?
When did he have his last crew chief change?
He got a new crew chief this year. I'm pretty sure. Or last year. Whenever what's his name came in? Squadersi. Anyway, the point being
that was last year.
that was last year. Yeah. So the point being that, the timing is not unusual to put it out there basically halfway through the season. This is when everyone gets sort of decided. And this is where I've gone down the path of talking about like the Netflix show they did where they've just completely missed the most compelling story is that like 50% of your field, probably give or take, is on 1+1 contracts, which means they basically have 6 months to prove themselves to get re-signed, or less than that if you think about the season really starts in February. So, you've got basically 5 months to prove yourself to get re-signed for the next year. And, we talk about May mattering because that's only a couple months in the season. And it does because you're rumbling towards July 1st, which is normally the time period of which the option ends.
Can I
suggest
suggest a pointless hypothetical?
What's that?
So let's just be, and you don't have to like out yourself by any means, but let's just be real for a second. Would you say that you have known or have thought to have known that this was going to happen for longer than just April of this year?
Yeah.
March,
Yeah.
February.
I mean, not
January.
to be mean to Daniel, but I
Not
just,
trying to be. I was just.
Yeah.
We're just being real for a second.
being
January.
pragmatic. I would say
January.
I would say
December.
the day Zilich went and won his first Xfinity race at Watkins Glen, absolutely shellacking
Last
the field.
August.
Yeah,
Last
last August.
Okay. Okay. So let's start there.
Yep.
At what point was it too late? Like, what could Daniel have done? You got a
Win.
new crew chief.
The only
How
thing you can do is
much?
win. You can win. That's only winning.
It's only,
what do we say?
That's it.
Winning
Winning
fixes
fixes.
everything in racing.
It
It
does.
is the only thing. It is the only thing that matters.
Not
And
running
unlike-
second.
Yeah, and unlike other sports, which I feel like this gets skewed because of other sports, where as a team in another sport, you only play one other team, and each weekend you have multiple teams playing each other in different games, right? And so there can be many winners on a weekend. In the NASCAR Cup Series, every single weekend, all the competitors are on the field at the same time, and there is only one winner. It is a zero-sum game. There is only one person, one team, who will walk out of every weekend thinking that was
Well, it's not a zero-sum game.
What?
It's I get. Sorry,
It isn't technically if winning that is everything. But I get what you're saying. Yes, there's other winners to the field. Obviously, if you take a 35th place car in points and you go and finish 20th, that's amazing, right? We used to think that was incredible. That's changed, I think, in some respects, but it is a value. But yes, you can consider those winners. They beat other cars that are maybe better than them. But at the end of the day, really, if we say winning is everything, then there's only one winner.
Well, when you're in, I think to take what you're saying and interpret it a different way, it's like when you're in Daniel's position as of August of last year, like you said, right? That might be when he went on notice. January, February of this year, when the season started, running good was not going to be good enough, right? Because in your mind, like, if you're saying that he was already on notice, if it was a foregone conclusion, is he gonna just he can't top 5 himself into a contract renewal? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He needed 4 wins between now and not just July, May. He needed to win 3. Okay, maybe this is now I'm centering in on where I was actually trying to think to begin with. Between February and May, he needed to win 3 races. Because his if you're suggesting that his renewal date was July 1st, how long do you think Justin Marks and company had the decision been made before July 1st? Weeks, months? Like hard decision.
Weeks.
Like we're absolutely doing this.
I'd say weeks.
So middle of June.
Yeah.
So by the end of May, Daniel needed to have he needed to make it in order to make it undisputable. Like these guys have no choice. Indisputable. Thank you. To leave no choice.
Yeah.
He needed to be 3 wins.
It makes sense. And he currently sits 29th in points. So it's not going well, this season.
You think 1 win would have done it? You think 1 win between February and May would have kept him in the ride?
I think 1. 1 would have would have been a different discussion.
Even if his teammates also had a win?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's a totally different discussion.
You think he had a chance to keep in his ride with just one win?
I don't, obviously there's financial ramifications, sponsorship, all that stuff. Who knows? And only having 3 charters, right, at Trackhouse makes it a tough spot. I don't think
is Connor bringing sponsorship that Daniel can't bring?
I don't know. I don't know what's associated with him or not. I mean, obviously he has Red Bull that's pretty in with him and SVG. WeatherTech seemed to be a sort of a package deal with him and SVG. I'm sure, Chevy's very excited about Connor Zilisch. I think we're sort of anointing him as the one to take this ride. I think that's probably common consensus thought process, but crazier things have happened. Never know.
Do you think that, and I don't know who said this, if it was on social media or if it was even in our group chat, is Daniel destined for like a Spire ride? Like, do you think this is Chevy playing, puppet games where they go, we like Daniel, we still support him, he's a Chevy guy, but we just have a Chevy guy that we like better, right?
He's got I think he's got a lot of sponsorship, so that does give him a great opportunity to move around. I do think there's potentially a car that's a single-digit car that that driver has been put on notice as well. That would most likely, in my opinion, the level of funding that Daniel brings and being related to Chevy would matter.
Goodrich.
What's that?
GM. What did I just say? BF Goodrich. The black and silver GM. Do you think he could drive a 3?
Yeah, there you go.
He should be in the 3 car.
Poor Austin.
No, Austin needs to run that place. Austin needs to take.
He's gonna. He's gonna.
He needs to take that place to the next level.
I guarantee it. That's the eventuality there.
I think RZR needs to switch to Dodge and put Amigo in the 3 car.
My man. There you go. That's the move. Speaking of moves, considering new manufacturers and that sort of thing, Brickware Racing.
That so confidently that people are gonna be like, "What is this?
Wait, are they onto something? Huh?
Something?
Hey, actually, to that point, regarding a couple of these things, when we had some of these BSing discussion, moments where I
Uh-huh.
talk to other people. I had a couple things where I just put 2 and 2 together, and the person to my right, who will remain nameless, who knows intimately these things are correct or not, was like, "Mm-hmm, yep, you're on it. Uh-huh, yep, you're on it." It's like, okay, so I'm really following the right path here.
Not to spoil what's going on here, what we have to come later in the show, but Kyle Busch in the chat just posted, "Was it over when Pitbull left?"
Oh,
That's a question.
maybe.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Was there some support for Daniel through
That I
Pitbull?
don't know. I don't know. I can't, I can't confidently say. Wasn't tracking that.
We'll talk about that
As
later.
people of
We'll
this
catch up.
show know, Justin's as a friend, but I don't always ask him sort of the particulars, business dealings,
Yep.
that sort of stuff. And stuff, I think there's times where I do learn stuff and I make sure not to blow up a spot because it's said as friends in confidence. But this is out there. So, the one thing we didn't go into, by the way, is that that 1+1 deal, the whole thing with that is that it's just, to me, like the most compelling story in motorsports is these drivers that are signed to those, because it's just crazy. You think of these guys who they're not making life-changing money sometimes, often, and they get to the top to then be put in a position where they've got 4 or 5 months to prove themselves to get re-signed. And,
It's
that
tough.
is the most predominant contract in the NASCAR Cup Series. It is also completely in the team's favor in that they get to July. Well, I take that back. If it's July 1st, August 1st, I think that's a very mutual contract. It's the teams that make that option to fall, right? That really hurts the driver, and that hurts a lot.
Right.
And so I think, a lot of people have pushed for the mid-season option because it actually is a little bit pro driver. If you're told at this time we're not going to take that option, you have time to look elsewhere. There's time to move. So you're not left out in the cold. So I do think it is a little pro driver in that sense. It's a lot more pressure, but I think it's tough, and it's just crazy how many drivers are on that situation now. I mentioned it. Rickware Racing announced that they've been sold for reported nine-figure range, somewhere around $100 million for those charters.
What?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Wait,
now,
so this started as a rumor last.
well, no, it was
week.
announced.
Oh, it was announced, but now the numbers are coming out.
TJ Pouchier has bought it. He of fame from Spire. He was an executive at Spire for many years, and he was bought out of that last year, and so now he's the one acquiring Rickware Racing. Now, did TJ personally put in $100 million? I'd say that's suspect. I did have some discussions with some people, and as I suspected, there's a small amount of possibly owner financing in there from Rickware, and then there's also the idea that there's a lot of groups that have been on the sidelines for the last year or two who want to get involved in NASCAR and saw this as an opportunity. Remember, TJ being part of Spire has sort of been the broker and the clearinghouse for charters over the last couple of years. So they've sort of met every single interested party financially that wants to be in NASCAR, who has bidded on charters, who has showed interest on charters, and therefore has a great access to capital that's interested. And therefore, I believe this is, there's more to this than just TJ. And we'll see where it goes. I think there's
propping up these valuations for the next billionaire sucker to come in and actually pay $75 million for a charter, and they think you got a deal.
You got a deal, or the other side to that is a new manufacturer coming in. Obviously, could be a boon for some of these charters and these owners. And so obviously with Dodge expressing interest in getting to the Cup Series eventually after announcing they're going to be in trucks. And then you've had Honda circling around in rumors and that sort of thing. So I think that's a possibility in which those charters could potentially be worth more. Now, remember, there is a provision to put more charters into the pool if a new manufacturer joins. Those, though, are not much cheaper than what these ones are just sold for. So the idea being that if you come in, if they expand the charters, basically the cost to get one similar to Formula One, where the expansion fee deal that they talked about with Cadillac coming in, where it was going to be $200 million and they wanted to be $600 million to make up the difference of what the teams would lose on a percentage basis from having another team there. It's the same thing with the Cup Series. If if there's 4 more charters, those cost the equivalent of what the teams would basically lose percentage wise of income. So it's pretty big. They're pretty, that's sort of what the value of these is stemming from, as well as the guaranteed income that the charter has now in the new charter agreement. So, well, that'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I mean, I think this continues to show that there's at least some form of value to these things if you are really in the know and happen to be the broker dealer
It's interesting.
trader.
About
and
5
acquirer.
years ago, there was a lot of charters changing hands on paper for insane amounts of money, allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
until finally somebody like an outside, and it created this narrative of the charters being worth this amount of money, but they were being exchanged amongst each other. And it was a really interesting time. And I don't know what was actually happening. And I don't think you know what was actually happening.
No.
Only they know what was actually happening. But these charters were being exchanged amongst each other. And then it was just getting out to the public how much they were getting exchanged for, which is also, just so interesting because these teams can be awfully private when they want to be. And then it was like these outside, new money finally came in and actually did write those checks for that amount of money. And it was like, I guess the precedent was set for that valuation. So
Wait, are you saying
it's just interesting.
that? Okay, that makes sense. That's what I
Just
wanted to go.
something
Yeah,
to
it's just
think
interesting. Yeah.
It's just
All right.
interesting.
Speaking of interesting, more I guess precedence to the fact that Dodge is potentially coming to the Cup Series. Heard some talks about them having an engine program that they've started in North Carolina, but they're struggling to hire people. So if you're interested in building engines, especially young people, apparently that's happening out there. Not sure how you find them or search for where that is, but
Maybe
that
that'd be
apparently is occurring.
part of the reason they're struggling to hire people.
Yeah, you got to just say where you're at. Say
So
what
can
you're
we
doing.
talk about that for just a second? So what?
Mhm.
So Dodge they're running the truck series. They're starting in the truck series next year.
Yes, which is just a spec motor.
Spec
It's
motor,
the
but
Ilmor motor.
they're working on an engine shop right now.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So that's interesting to me, and I wonder what the master plan really is, because I just, and forgive me for assuming, right? It's not what you don't know that kills you. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. I would just have assumed with absolute certainty that Dodge coming into the Cup Series would be acquiring a team with an engine shop, right? So they still may be doing that, but are they at least trying to develop on an engine right now in the meantime? Or are you suggesting that Dodge is like, nope, we're going it alone. We want our own engine shop. We want to be like TRD.
I believe they're going it on their own.
Interesting.
Yep. And that teams that have an engine shop potentially could convert, but I don't think they're not looking to do that.
So I guess that makes sense.
So then you can probably figure it out on one hand the amount of the couple teams that would be potential
Right.
Dodge teams,
right? That does,
and
it makes
potentially
sense.
a team that doesn't exist, obviously with new charters.
It makes sense if they want to do it alone, and good on them for doing it. And it also maybe is a little bit telling to their true commitment to the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And this is me giving them a lot of credit for like how smart they are and strategic. Like I'm assuming that they're smart and strategic. So that tells me that there's a pretty big commitment to the sport if they plan on having their own engine shop.
Well, except for the Ram CEO. Hold on, but except for the Ram CEO basically said they didn't know charters were a thing. That was a quote.
Maybe.
So
yeah, but
I
mean, I don't know if the CEO is actually the guy making the decisions here. He's just the one that approved the 9-figure budget for all this.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't have to know what charters are. What I'm getting at is, can we all just take a second and go back to 2006 to 2012 and beyond? It took Toyota a long time to have a great engine program, like a good engine program. They didn't show up with steam. Right?
Yeah. I mean, wait, hold on. I say that with a bit of revisionist history because I don't particularly remember well what their engine was like. I know when I came in 2008, 2009,
I mean, I
they
remember
were
half
already
the cars
winning.
missing the Daytona 500 in 2007.
Well, yeah, that's the
When they
famous.
already had a truck program with engines.
That is true. Yeah, you're right.
And Joe Gibbs was building engine. Well, no. Joe Gibbs had a Chevy engine shop at the time. Let's see, they did build Toyotas. And they had Triad. But TRD building Toyota, I don't know. It just took Toyota, I feel like, a while.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, oh my goodness. You know what we've forgotten?
What?
We got so lost and our producer's terrible. We didn't do. Where can you get diecast?
Oh my! Don't blame me for this.
It's literally what you're supposed to do. Literally.
Oh my gosh, we blew that one. But well, here's the deal.
What's
If
that?
you want to get me a very nice birthday present next week, go to spoilerdiecast.com. These guys are absolutely crushing it. They are one of the fastest growing diecast and racing merch companies out there. Spoilerdiecast.com. For good reason. They ship same or next day. So your order is not sitting in limbo forever. They have a massive selection. It is over 1,900 products in stock, still going up. We got to probably revise that one. And since June is over, I don't know if I can just continue to promote that. Last month we were doing free shipping on orders over $100 and a free NASCAR shirt of a kind of a random driver. So just comment in your preferred size in the order notes. I don't know what they're going to do for July, but I feel like I don't know what volume, of sales they get off of those. Hopefully it's a handful, a lot of sales with that promo code. But I feel like if we can talk to them, I think that they should try to collect like just those crazy NASCAR trinkets of the 90s and 2000s and throw those in. Do we have any you know what I mean? Like a Kenny Wallace ashtray or something like that. Like a set of Bill
Dale
Elliott,
Jr. pajamas.
Yeah, Dale Jr. pajamas. I think we need to see if we can get some of that stuff from thrift shops or something and throw that in for our next promotion. So, but anyways, I'm sure you can keep using it. Promo code MONEYLAP will get you free shipping on orders over $100 and a free NASCAR shirt if you just comment your size. So whether you're hunting down a rare piece or you're looking to rep your favorite driver, just go to spoilerdiecast.com. Use promo code MONEYLAP. Send that order to Castle Motors and call it a birthday present for me.
Love that. Happy early birthday, bud. By the way,
I mean, it is
pretty
early for me to because we're probably going to record on my birthday, so we can talk about my birthday again next week. But
maybe we'll give you the day off. I don't know.
We
don't think that far ahead.
Me to even acknowledge my own birthday. I was just trying to make an ad read work.
You do never bring it up. All right. The one thing that won't be on Spoiler Diecast next year is any Kyle Larson double attempt for the third time merch, because he has basically stated, I have no desire to do it. It's logistically too tough. 2 attempts, 2 times rain and weather and everything got in the way. I think it's basically run its course for now. And we talked about that. I think for Kyle, literally since that weekend, he has been like human. I think I heard someone say the other day, and I was like, that is the best way to describe it. I think that literally took some wind out of his sails in the last month or two.
Oof.
So
that's an interesting point.
I really think so. Like last month, I just think it just, all they had to go through to do that, and for it to all just, sort of go wrong once again. I just think, he probably expelled a lot of energy to do all that. And, it's so cool and we were all supporting him, but that's a tough endeavor. And for 2 years in a row go wrong, I think he probably just was like, that's it. This isn't meant to be for now.
It seems like he woke up and was like, that wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully the new sequel to Days of Thunder that is in the works with Jerry Bruckheimer and Tom Cruise needs a racing show in it. You think we have a chance?
That would be awesome.
If they need a racing show, the best motorsports show in America, you come.
That would be great.
We mentioned in Xfinity, the 48 team for Big Machine Racing finally won. Super happy for Scott Borchetta and those guys. We came so close at that place so many times. It owed us all one. And that was cool to see. And I mentioned last week, Lime Rock Park hosted its first top 3 NASCAR race. It was an absolutely massive crowd, biggest in modern day history at Lime Rock. And from everyone that was there, including some of my family members and friends, they said it was an awesome event on the ground, really well run. So shout out to the whole Lime Rock Park leadership team. I was super sad not to be there. Incredible FOMO. But I wasn't there, Landon. Cool. And then Corey Heim absolutely whooped him. Absolutely. He led all but one lap, by the way. It was not. He ruined the show. I felt like a promoter watching, and I was like, this is terrible. You're ruining my show.
You know what? Good on him. I saw that. I mean, I saw that and I was like, man, good for him with the ringers in there. And, it just sometimes you can bring in all the specialists, but a stock car driver is just going to win in a stock car race.
Yeah. I know. Jordan Taylor's fast, but didn't have enough.
Yeah.
Do you have the keys?
It's hard to put a race together. Like, it's hard to put a NASCAR race together.
It is.
You should have been there, Parker. If you have the keys to the sprinklers, you could have turned them on, throw a caution out, make a late race.
I mean, I was in Atlanta watching, but I had done anything. Not to Corey, just like a soft speeding penalty, but they were non-competitive stops. That's tough to do. But like we say it we have a joke in the booth sometimes when the Cup drivers have come down to the Xfinity Series and sort of stunk up the show for a bit. And I've been like, let's just get a soft speeding penalty. Like no one gets hurt. They can still come back and win. It's just like a soft speeding penalty on pit road. So it always spice up the show. That's what I was rooting for as a promoter. I hate to say it because the driver of me is like, man, that's excellent. I'd love to dominate a day like that. But as a promoter, you're like, no. I need a show here. Give me a show. Speaking of shows, I didn't watch the show from Austria. I saw about 5 laps, and then my plane took off on Sunday morning. Nonetheless, I mentioned it. Lando Norris won. He needed to. That was huge. Kimi Antonelli ran into Verstappen on the first lap, outbraked himself, and just pile drove Verstappen. So that kind of killed his hopes for a title fight potentially against McLaren. And there are rumors that Mercedes is trying to get Verstappen to join Mercedes, which is interesting. So that's your F1 wrap up. Also, the F1 movie is out. Apparently, it had a massive open weekend. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Josh?
I won't be seeing it today.
I have not. I am currently scheduled to go see it though. A couple of friends saw it over the weekend, and they mixed feedback. Some people are like, if you love F1, don't go see it. Others are like, if you love F1, go see it. And so I don't know what that means.
Well, we had 2 in our group chat who watched it, and they basically had exact opposite reviews. One said best movie ever. One said not worth the time. So I don't know.
In similar news, my kids discovered Top Gun this weekend.
Oh,
and it's the coolest thing they've ever seen. So
that's awesome.
They loved it. Yeah,
I love that.
Just wait till they'll watch Interstellar. Then they're set for life.
Yeah, best movie of all time, for sure. Let's make our picks. What do we got this weekend, Josh?
That's a great question. We got some racing this weekend. Let me pull up NASCAR.com and I'll tell you right about it.
I know we got Cup and Xfinity in Chicago. Where's F1? Where's IndyCar? Where's trucks? Trucks are off.
Yeah. Trucks are off for quite a while. Formula One is I'm so
trucks got to be starting a playoff soon, don't they?
No. They don't start that till they start it later in September.
I always thought that they started their playoffs.
No.
Early.
No.
Formula One is
maybe they do. I can't remember.
Great Britain for the Great Britain Grand Prix.
Oh, Silverstone.
Yes, there. And then IndyCar is in Mid-Ohio.
Oh, that's right, because AJ is going. Our
Cup. My Cup pick. My Cup pick in Chicago will be Christopher Bell. My Xfinity pick in Chicago will be who's the Josh, do you have any like standouts that are gonna non-regulars?
You are really just throwing
You have
everything
Jack
out.
Perkins
Yeah, like
from Australia coming over to be in a Gibbs car. But if I
mean-
were you, I would choose between SVG and Zilich.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation as well.
let's go with Zilich because my heart goes with Zilich. I want him to win. I feel like SVG might have the edge there. But we'll go with Zilich. Formula Silverstone. Fast. I don't know. Oof. Who's fast right now?
McLaren.
McLaren.
Who won this weekend? We barely
I
talked
said
about
three
F1.
times. Lando Norris.
Oh, let's go with
I
Lando
think-
again. Home track. It's home track for like half of them, but
Come to
Oh,
us with all the motorsports knowledge, but we're the guys.
know,
that
we
know
are-
what race.
we're talking about trust us. Well, I did say last week it was do or die weekend for Lando last week, so let's.
No,
just
that's what I
keep it
said
real.
too. You're literally taking my points. I think we both said that.
Okay. Mid Ohio.
Did you choose an IndyCar?
I'm choosing it right now.
Okay.
Jesus.
Alex Blow.
Wow. So we're living on the edge over here.
Well,
You're living dangerously.
Leaving everybody with some
All right.
some
So
insightful.
Cup. I can't decide who needs it versus who wants it versus who'd be the most insane outcome. But my initial gut was AJ Allmendinger because he needs it. He wants it. And
Okay.
he's not been great there, I want to say, but this could be the third year. The pressure's off. I think AJ Allmendinger. And it's not just because he's joining me in the CW booth this weekend, by the way. So I'm trying to, because he and I have been pretty contentious in the past. Xfinity, I am going to go Sam Mayer.
Interesting.
I like it.
Yeah. He's a road course guy. He wants to prove he can beat them. He took 2 wins from me at road courses, so he better prove he's really damn good. F1, Lando Norris. That's a given. He needs to keep it up, go win at home, fight back against Oscar Piastri if he wants to keep his number 1 status. And IndyCar, basically the decision is Kyle Kirkwood or Alex Palou. It's a 50-50 shot. Mid-Ohio, definitely more Ganassi track. I'm going Alex Palou.
All right. Simple. I'm gonna make it quick. SVG is gonna sweep the weekend with
okay.
Cup and Xfinity. Although I don't know who's starting in the 19 car. It's not announced
That's
yet.
Jack
Should go with
Perkins.
the other.
He won't
Go
be
with the
leading.
other Australian for IndyCar then.
Oh,
Scotty
who's the
Mack.
other?
He's talking about Scotty Mack. But
Oh,
he's actually New Zealand.
Same thing.
oh no.
We just pissed off all of New Zealand.
I'm gonna go with Piastri. Because I still believe. And also I just think that Norris not gonna get it done. And then an IndyCar because you guys make things boring. I'm gonna go with Kirkwood instead of Palou.
We're gonna continue this trend between those two. Awesome. All right, we got some new Apple reviews. We're almost at 230. It's like 229, I want to say. This one says, best show in motorsports. Love everything about this show. Authenticity is often missing with athletes, and these guys bring it every week, most of the time, twice a week. Not anymore. Look forward to the show dropping, knowing I'm going to get the most honest takes on motorsports technology issues be damned. Thanks for the work you guys put in the show and always staying honest to yourselves. I feel like if I found Parker in some random town's dive bar asking the bartender to put on that NASCAR race, he'd talk with me the same way he does to the guys on here.
And you
Also,
absolutely
Landon,
would find Parker
would-
in a random
100
bar anywhere.
That is
Like,
actually a high
you would.
likelihood
It's-
anytime there's a NASCAR
Yeah.
race in town. Or if I am at a bar, it's probably I'm asking for the NASCAR race. Also, Landon, you were the first athlete I remember being the same age as me when I started following along with your career in high school, thinking, man, this guy's got it. Admire that you keep fighting through all the swings the racing world can give and not backing down. That is Burt Macklin, 84. We appreciate it,
Thanks,
buddy.
Burke.
I'm going to take this one too. So
Go
I'm going
ahead.
to rip through these. 5 stars. This one says Wisco Proud. I'm guessing Wisconsin. Love the show. You guys break down racing so well and have fun doing it that it makes it so much fun to listen to. Landon's driving experience story had me laughing at work while listening to it. Question for Landon. Does he ever have a desire to come back up to the Midwest and race up here again? Parker, you should come to Best Short Track Racing is right here in Wisconsin. That's Rowdy 182332.
Love
I
it.
better guess.
You ever raced in Madison, Wisconsin?
I have not. I almost did in USAC.
God, it's one of the best short tracks. So good.
You can get back out there.
Love Wisconsin. Yeah.
You've been offering me a ride lately. In the
Yes,
Midwest.
I didn't offer it. You accepted.
No, I haven't. I preliminary accepted. I have
Well,
to.
I told everybody you're doing it. So
Well, that's just insane.
we already have your name in the program.
I know.
You're coming.
Are you gonna race too?
Eventually.
Do I have to make the show?
Hey, yeah, you have to qualify in.
Oh,
You'll
you're
be fine.
kidding, right?
You'll be fine.
There's that many cars?
No.
Oh, I was like, I gotta qualify.
I think they've been getting like 15-ish cars.
Is it dirt now or are we asphalt?
So we have a class at Hawkeye Downs that is I'm going to butcher this, but we have a class at Hawkeye Downs, which is IMCA dirt sport mods. Okay. But they race on the asphalt quarter mile, but the rules are the dirt sport mods. So they're like, so the guys that race in the class run dirt as, with the same car, like the very next night, they might be racing at Independence or something.
So they just lean all over? Like,
oh yeah, they
crazy?
drive like hell, and the cars drive like crap in there.
I love it.
And they slide around. They use up all the racetrack. So
I
it's
might
really
have to do
cool.
this.
And they're on treaded tires. Because it's not an asphalt modified; it's a dirt modified.
Yep.
And it's a dirt modified class, but it's racing on an asphalt quarter mile.
Oh
So
my god.
We have a car that is a really good car. So it's really fast. And we've been putting people in it. Kenny Wallace is going to drive it.
Wow.
I need to call Kenny Schrader. I was going to see if he wants to drive it. I've been trying to get Ryan Ellis to drive it because he wanted to drive. He wanted to come up and race at Hawkeye Downs. But
all right. Well, we'll put
he
this
needs to
deal
get in it.
together.
I asked a funny story. I asked Dale Jr. for Kenny Schrader's number, and I was like, they texted him, and I was like, hey, we got this modified we run. I was like, I want to call Kenny Schrader. I said, I realized I didn't have his cell phone number. Can you give it to me? And he didn't respond for like a couple days, which is unlike him. And
Totally.
So then I texted him and was like, hey, are you mad that I wasn't asking if you wanted to drive it? And he texted me back right away. He's like, oh, sorry, I saw this. Forgot to get back to you. Here's Kenny's number.
That's awesome.
So,
man.
if there's any
I feel
NASCAR
honored
drivers,
you put me in this group of like Midwest icons.
Oh yeah. Well, you are planning on you coming to drive it in what were the dates? I think it was end of July.
I can't remember.
So we have
there was one I could do.
Yeah, that's the one that you're gonna do. And then we have a couple other dates available. So if there's any drivers listening to this, because I know we do have drivers. Oh, we need to get Carson Hocevar up here.
Yeah, he'd be big because he always goes up there and does what's it called? Berlin.
Yeah,
you should get him.
So we'll get him.
Carson, go race this car. Now the seat. If those guys can fit in this, if Kenny can fit in it, that'd be a good seat. If Kenny can fit in it or fits Carson, I got.
You're a little concerned. I think that I'll have to look at the seat that's in it. I think that we bought like we've had a few different sizes drivers drive it. So
all right, we'll figure it out.
We can work with padding and all that.
Let's get through the last couple. Matthew Christ here says, love the podcast. I listen while delivering Amazon packages. Oh, hey. There's only one small complaint, and that's the lack of conversation about IMSA and WEC. These series have had some very exciting racing this year. It surprised me how little you talk about them, especially considering Parker drives in the IMSA part-time. Anyways, keep up the good work. Great point, Matthew. It's just tough with all the racing out there to watch those endurance races. I do usually watch the highlights, but I also don't usually have like a really great insight other than like, that was awesome. Great race. I know I've shouted it out a couple times on here. So I will try and bring that more often. We had someone send us a message saying, this is from Zach Cross. So Zach, if you're listening, we did get this. Hi, any chance you can give Landon Cassill a message? Thanks, Zach. So Zach, we got the message. If you send the same way you sent that message, we will get the message to him.
Okay. Yeah, look forward to hearing from that.
Yeah, can't wait. And Ricky Callan says, you guys have the best guest every week. Love the show. Thanks for all you do for motorsports. Well, that's a great...
Am I the guest or are you the guest?
Well, no, it's a great segue into our guest today.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So we've
Ricky
got
knows
him
what's up.
here, finally, the two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, the driver of the 8 car for RCR. Hasn't been to Victory Lane this year, but after being here, I expect this will happen. He'll find himself in Victory Lane, none other than Kyle Busch here on the Money Lap. Let's go. Kyle, finally, you're here. Josh.
Kyle. Josh, put him on.
Kyle. Josh.
Put him on.
Are you going to click it?
So,
Jesus.
Oh, for the love of God.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Money Lap. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends. We want to spread the word of great motorsports shows, of which we're somewhere up and around there. I'm not exactly sure where, but nonetheless, you can also reach out to us anytime on across social media or at our website, themoneylap.com, or at our email, friends@themoneylap.com. And of course, you can always leave us a review. 5 stars gets you on this very show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.